Rob.
When people talk about the threat to democracy that Trump poses, do you really think that is an equal evil to Biden?
I mean, listen, I can make the argument that President Biden is a much worse threat to democracy. And the reason for that is President Biden is the first candidate in history, the first president in history that has used the federal agencies to censor political speech, so to censor his opponent. I can say that because I just won a case in the Federal Court of Appeals and now before the Supreme Court. It shows that he started censoring not just me. 37 hours after he took the oath of office, he was censoring me. No president in the country has ever done that. The greatest threat to democracy is not somebody who questions election returns, but a president of the United States who used the power of his office to force the social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to open a portal and give access to that portal to the FBI, to the CIA, to the IRS, to CISA, to NIH, to censor his political critics. President Biden, for the first president in history, used his power over the Secret Service to deny Secret Service protection to one of his political opponents for political reasons. He's weaponizing the federal agencies. Those are really critical threats to democracy.
Donald Trump, of course, tried to overturn a free and fair election. He tried to overturn one, right? He's still fighting in court.
Yes.
How is that not a threat to democracy?
Well, I think that is a threat to democracy. If trying to overthrow the election clearly is a threat to democracy. But the question was, who is a worse threat to democracy? And what I would say is, I'm not going to answer that question, but I can argue that President Biden is, because the First Amendment, Aaron, is the most important. Adams and Hamilton and Madison said, we put the guarantee of freedom of expression in the First Amendment because all of our other constitutional rights depend on it. If you have a government that can silence its opponent, it has license for any atrocity.
So just to be clear, you're saying you could make an argument that President Biden is a worse threat to democracy than Donald Trump. That's what you just said.
But who else has ever tried to? Who else has ever tried to censor? What president in history has ever tried to censor political opponents? What president has weaponized?
Here's a man whose father and his uncle got assassinated. If there's anybody that knows about this that's qualified to speak on this topic, it's him. Chris, thoughts on this?
All right, so there's a lot here. Okay. One, you're seeing why Bobby doesn't get invited on a lot of mainstream networks, okay? They do not want to hear anything that he's saying right now. I would have had a different conversation with him. I would have checked a couple of more points early on because he's very clever. He's a very intelligent guy. People mistake his voice for his cogency, and they're two very different things. So Erin, you see, is trying to distill the soundbite. Kennedy says Biden more dangerous than Trump. That's what she wanted out of it. That's the clickbait. I'm not criticizing her. I'm saying that's what it is. He is touching on something that is really, really important for Democrats to understand, okay? The Trump is the boogeyman argument is not going to get it done for you with independents. It's not going to work. I'm not saying that you're wrong to make the argument. I'm saying that people know who Trump is. He's been weighed and he's been measured. Every moment you spend not discussing policies that you will put in place and methods that you will establish with your leadership that is better than his is a moment lost. People don't like what the government did under Biden during COVID with respect to policing what was on social media. This is the democracy issue of our generation. What you're allowed to process for yourself versus what is manipulated on social media is the issue. Even the new feature on Meta where you can turn on and turn off different types of political speech, huge problem, huge problem. We are in a censorship phase. The federal government was censoring information to social media platforms. We all know that there's always interface between media and government. Over the years, I've had many different administrations come to me and say, be careful about this, be careful about that, be careful. And I welcome it. I welcome it. But there's a line. And they went over the line because they wanted to protect the government policies. And they manipulated social media. The social media people were stupid or gullible or transactional, whatever it was. They
you
went
mispronounced complicit.
or complicit. And that's
you
what...
You believe that? You think they were complicit?
100%.
Okay.
100%. Because, look, you don't have to do what the government's telling you to do. Were there some subtle threats? Yeah, I believe there were. But Bobby is right about this issue. Does it make Biden a bigger danger to democracy? I think the whole thing is hyperbole. I think neither of these guys are going to destroy the democracy.
Right. But okay,
there's a lot of people disagree with you on
I
that.
know.
Well, not necessarily. No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. I think the part here, the one part of the democracy, the republic, the one part of the republic that, remember, this is a republic, but I understand the democracy argument as well. The one part of it is that the argument he's making, which he's right, okay? The guys used the DOJ against his opponent to keep him busy. You know, that part is a precedent. So, for example, you know, this whole thing about what they did to McCarthy, impeach him. You know how much I wasn't a fan of that?
Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah, I'm like, guys, what do you... So now you know what's going to be happening? So what happens in a company, you know, the saying goes, hire slow, fire fast. Fully get that. So that part of it I agree with. Hire slow, fire fast. You hire somebody and like, dude, this is not working out. Look, bro, I've had the conversations and I let them save face to say, I decided to resign and leave. No, you go for it. And I will never give the name. If they call me out, then I have to give the name. But till then, I'm never going to give the name. You're right. Save face, go do your thing. Totally get it. 0 names will ever be given unless if they want me to say it, then I'll have to talk about it. Sometimes it's just like, listen, bro, I don't think you like working here, and I don't think it's going to work out. We got to move on, right? But for the most part, when you work with somebody, Tom and I started working together one time after, 3 months, okay? We had something that we faced. He's like, what are you doing? No, we're moving on. And we moved on, and we moved on, and we moved on. Then we had an issue, then we moved on, then we moved on. Now, Tom's family to me, every Christmas we're together. He's pretty much Assyrian. He doesn't know it. He doesn't know it. I'm thinking about asking him to change his last name to David, because then for sure all the assets flow through, just like it's going to be a different kind of a situation.
I'm learning to shave my back.
Why'd you have to go there, you racist bastard?
As weird as this sounds, how much hair do I have on my back, Tom? 0. You can't find a single hair on my back.
He's been shaving.
Dylan is a different story. Dilly Boy is a different story. Yeah. But the point is like this whole, let's impeach. Bro, let him have a little bit of momentum to see what he does. What did McCarthy do? Okay, the negotiation with and Matt Gaetz and all this stuff. Okay, fine. Now this next guy, Johnson, let's find him. Most of these guys are establishment guys you're putting there as a speaker. What do you think you're getting as a Republican guy that you're putting there, right? That's one thing on what we're doing. If there's anything that's given me a lot of trust in the system is the last 3 years, 4 years in America. I'm new to politics. I've not been in the political world my entire life. Matter of fact, I hate politics because to me, every time I think about politics, my parents got divorced twice because of politics. I was a kid that wanted to come home to both my mom and dad being home together. One was a communist, one was an imperialist. They divorced over politics. I hate politics until eventually I realized taxes is politics. And you want to silence me? Now I'm not going to stop doing this because I don't like to be controlled. And I have to fight for some of the guys that maybe can't fight for it, right? But the part for me on what happened these last 3 years, you know what it is? This system in America is a freaking sick-ass system.
For the bad or the good?
No, but let me tell you, bro. Biden is giving his speech 4 weeks ago, and he's trashing the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And it's a 6-3 Supreme Court. They're 100% united against the president.
Amazing.
Do you know how emotional that moment should be for every single American to know that they are fighting for the freaking Constitution? I would love to stand in front of them and salute the freaking Supreme Court that we got. The system we have with the Senate, with Congress, I'm meeting with my Goldman guy, and he's saying, listen, here's a history. Since 1929, except for the black swan events that we have, the market's always done better the more it's divided. The market's done always better the more it's divided. Meaning, then it comes
divided government.
100%.
So like an executive as a Republican, Democratic Congress.
And we're looking at, I have the data upstairs. He said, look at this. He said, strike the way it is. Every Goldman's, every Morgan, every one of these guys want a divided administration between, all this stuff. I'm like, okay, the system is built so well. However, Chris, if Trump was your father, if you were born a Trump, not a Cuomo, okay? This is purely hypothetical. If you're born a Trump, not a Cuomo, this is not even
hypothetical. We're going.
This is not even this is a question we're asking here that could be if I'm born a Cuomo.
Okay.
Our relation, the first time he's DMing saying, why would you want me on your show? You remember the first time, I said, what do you mean, why would I want you on your show? I respect the facts. I have 2 boys. My boys, I'd love for them to have each other's back the way you have your brother's back. I have so much respect for the way your father raised you. I don't need to know politics, right? The rest is just conversation. What happened? Oh, okay, thank you. So, but the point with what they did this time, if you were a Trump, not a Cuomo, and they did to your father, let's say Donald, they did to him what they've done the last few years just to Twitter, okay? Don't let that New York Post story go. 50 intelligence agents, there's nothing to do with the laptop. We all bought into it. And even Comey in 2016, in October, came out, and whatever the date was, 29th, I think, came out and said, no, those emails, she could have handled it better. He could have waited a week. And he didn't. As much as we can trash Comey, you have Trump because of Comey.
I think so.
You can say whatever you want about Comey. You don't have Comey. You don't have Trump. Hillary would have been the president, and she would have probably been a 2-term president, by the way, if you think about it, right?
Don't forget impeachments and allegations.
So all I'm saying is, if that was your father and they did what they did to your dad and they went after him the way they have, dude, you would be like, what the hell is the matter with you? So the RFK's, the only example I can give with RFK is 3 families. It's really, think about 3 families. It's the Kennedy family, it's the Cuomo family, it's the Trump family. Because that part, you can go to a case study and say, Don Jr., how do you feel? RFK, how do you feel? Chris, how do you feel?
Yeah.
Because why could you relate to that? Father Mario Cuomo, 3-term, brother, 2-term, New York governor. This is not like this, the financial capital of the world. You're not a governor of that state. It's the equivalent of a president of another. It's not, you're a president of any of these bigger countries in the world. That part I agree with RFK, with what Biden has done.
Well, Bobby starts with high ground in this regard. Not giving him security as a Kennedy is a risk that is not worth taking. God forbid. I had somebody ask him on my show the other night, a caller, came in and said, aren't you afraid, given what happened to your father and your uncle, that they may come at you? And he said he was not afraid because he had been taught by his mother and family that there are worse things than death, which, first of all, think about how heavy a lesson that is not hypothetical as it would be for anybody else's family. But given who he is, not giving him protection. Look, we know why they're not giving him protection. They'll say some BS about he doesn't check the right boxes that trigger it, or we don't want to set a precedent that when someone doesn't have a really legit chance and he's not from a party, he gets protection. Say whatever you want. This guy's special. And they should have been aware of that. It's a bad move that they should correct yesterday.
What is the reason why?
The reason why. They're
what
saying that he doesn't meet the criteria of threat profile and things like that required, or that there is no set policy of this guy of just someone getting protection because they're running. There'd be too much protection needed. Whatever the rationales are, they don't apply here. So that's first. Second. We are absolutely in a phase where we are prosecuting political opponents. It's happening all the time. Even the impeachment. Now, that's a purely political process, okay? Okay, fine, that's what it's for. It's still being abused because we are so addicted to grievance. We're so fed on division that that's all the 2 parties are playing to. I agree with you about the system. I always say, America sucks until you compare it to anywhere else. It's easy to attack.
Yeah.
Tell me
thing with capitalism.
Tell me where else you want to be. However, this party structure is not what it used to be. Your friend who was showing you the graph and the Black Swan events, we're in a Black Swan event. where they don't believe they have to do anything anymore because they have succeeded in dividing people to the point where a Vinny and a Chris forget they have common concerns. Vinny believes these things should be done, and here's who he blames for why it was on the border.
Yeah.
I blame different people, and I want different things done. But we both care about the border. They have succeeded in getting us to forget that. Mm-hmm. And all Vinny thinks is that I'm a threat to him, and I think he's a threat to me. So they aren't doing what divided government usually does, which was compromise and create policies that balanced equities and moved us in a direction. They're doing nothing right now, and they're being rewarded.
America should learn from the Supreme Court example they're setting.
100%.
I'm telling you, America should learn from those guys on what they're doing.
And by the way, they didn't agree. They agreed in the ruling, but the Democrat, the liberal justices wrote opinions that were like, we don't like this about it, we don't like that about it.
Totally fine.
But they had common concerns.
Exactly.
And so do Americans. Every time you do a poll, it's 7.5 out of 10, Pat. 7.5 out of 10. They meet on the same issues. Protecting your family. What kind of education are they going to get? Do I have a chance for my kids to make more money? Can I be upwardly mobile? How safe are we? We care about the same things.
One time I was in a former company, a guy named Jack Lender, great man. I traveled with him on the private. First time I traveled on private jet, it was with him. And his wife's name was Linda. Great people. And one time, we're having a conversation about leadership. I'm 26 years old. And he says, here's how I work. He says, I'm on the board. He says, there's many times I disagree with all the decisions that we're making. And I'll tell him I disagree with you. But he says, the moment we walk out that door, we're all on the same page. Mm-hmm. And he taught me this very vital lesson because, some people are like, well, I never agree with them anyways. Well, I know I'm with you. And those divisive personalities, he was trusted, I wouldn't say by everybody, the way he led. And I think it's Supreme Court kind of showed that. Vinny, I want to go to you and I'm going to the next story.
And then going back to her, because her main thing was, Trump's
Aaron Burnett
is more of a threat to democracy than Trump. And it was, so Trump is saying it wasn't a free and fair election. Let's at least admit right now that it was not a fair election, especially when you said Twitter, the FBI was actively there. They gave everybody their clearances, Chris, to freaking stop all these stories, which would have helped them. So, and this goes to me saying that the First Amendment mandates that the government can't limit or censor speech based on its content. The Biden administration and others, they casually dismiss this arrangement as rationale for somewhat to prevent misinformation. But we all know misinformation is in the eye of the beholder, correct? It's not up to the government to say, well, we think it's misinformation. We don't trust them at all. So at the end of the day, it's up to the governed, not the government, to decide what's misinformation. The FBI has zero legal authority to stop it by using Twitter as its agent, as it violated free speech rights of the people who were censored. So going back to Trump, he has 100% ground to stand on. It wasn't a free and fair election when your administration with the FBI is at Twitter stopping stories. And they said for a fact, they did a poll. What was the poll? If they found out that the Hunter Biden laptop with China information, with Biden, with all those deals was actually public, they would have voted, 60%? Would have gone the other way. So at the end of the day, Chris,
the independents, yep.
So let's, I just want to stop.
67%.
67%. So let's all of us stop. That is called cheating. You cheated by making these stories not go out. The other guy won, besides China and stay home, which, by the way, we still don't know definitively that it came from China. I think it's still racist a little bit to say that it came from there. That is cheating. So how can you blame a guy for saying it wasn't free and fair? It wasn't. You guys were cheating. So if we could say that, he's not a threat to democracy. He just wants to be like, all right, you guys cheated. Let's at least admit, say you guys cheated, and then we'll move on. Because if they cheated then with that, who knows what else they were doing? If you got caught doing that, what else were they doing? You know what I mean?
In a world of sound bites, you have to kind of listen careful to this. And unfortunately, that's not the way the average person listens to CNN. What RFK Jr. was saying is, I would argue that. And so what he was saying is, hey, I would argue that the guy that did all these is more of a threat to democracy. He was not waving the flag and saying Biden is a threat to the future of the republic. The republic's going to fall under him. But that's the soundbite that she wants. That's what the producer.
But that's on him, Tom. He shouldn't have said, I'm not going to answer that question, but I could make an argument that You don't have it both ways. You did answer the question by saying that you chose to argue that Biden is as big or bigger a threat. That's going to be the soundbite. That's on him.
So what should Abby have said? What are you saying?
Either say, I'm not going to answer the question, I'll let people decide.
Don't answer any of it.
Well, he said, I'm not going to answer the question, but, and then he said
answered it.
that, you can't have it both ways. You just can't have it both ways. Look, on the election, you can't have it both ways. You're right about the messaging argument that you make.
Yeah.
The problem for Trump is that he tried to get people to change the vote structure. And then he had people advance theories, right, to be generous, about how things had been corrupt that were not provable in any way. And the organization that he was banking on came forward and said, we don't have the proof. That's what they're worried about. That's what the lawsuit's about. I just wish that lawsuit had come first, because these other lawsuits in New York make the opposite point that you guys are talking about, which is, wow, it looks like they're out to get him. Yeah. It just looks like they're out to get him with these New York lawsuits.
But because at the end of the day, can you blame Trump for going, well, I don't trust any of them? If you literally had the agency at Twitter, which was, bro, that is our free.
I don't blame him for the feeling. I blame him for what he was alleged to have done and said. I don't blame him for feeling that he was getting rooked. But what you do to deal with that situation has to be legal.
Well, you can't go to the FBI. I mean,
now listen,
you can't go to the government. They're the ones screwing you over.
I get the predicament, but I'm saying picking up the phone call saying, find me X number of votes.
Correct.
You got a problem.
That's why the Stormy Daniels BS, New York stuff, Letitia James stuff.
I think it helps him.
That's why the
I think it helps him.
FBI files, the Mar-a-Lago stuff. That's.
I think it helps him.
Yeah.
That correct, but.
And on the files,
the Georgia,
I think he
find me 11,000 votes.
Oh, really?
I think
January
he baited
6th, this is where they can happen.
I think he baited them.
Yeah.
I think Trump is very savvy and knows that every time the government comes after him, it proves his point that they're coming after him because he's trying to protect Americans' interests.
Let me tell you one thing about RFK. Whether you're going to vote for the guy or not, you have to respect the man. The mainstream media doesn't know how to control him. They don't know how to manage him. They don't know how to handle him.
That's why they don't invite him.
Saying that's why they don't invite him, and that's why I like him.
And who do you think he's going to hurt more? I don't want to move back. Who do you think?
100% Trump.
He's going to hurt the Trump vote more.
Absolutely.
Why do you think?
What do you mean? Why do I think?
Like, is it those people that are kind of wishy-washy? They're like, the hell with them?
Because a Democrat is not. RFK almost says everything Trump says. But where RFK is different is what? Abortion, RFK is different, and some of the social stuff. Well, the independent and the libertarian now has an option for those that will never vote for Trump. They're going to vote for RFK. And that vote's not going to matter, just so you know that. The Democrats who hated Trump and they voted against Trump, they're still going to vote for Biden.
For sure.
They're going to vote for Biden no matter what. They're like, dude, voting for Trump for them is like, I had Stephen A. here the other day, right?
I loved it, by the way. It was great discussion.
Oh, by the way, one of my favorites. I really love the conversation we had. And I asked him a question about his mom when I said, hey, your mom, she lived like a conservative, but she voted a different way, right? Left. I said, okay. I said, if your mom was around today, how would she vote? Oh, without a question, conservative. Without a question, conservative. He didn't even hesitate. He said, without a question, conservative, right? I think there's going to be some closet Trump voters this year that they won't tell anybody. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are still part of the camp that they hate Trump and they're going to vote the other side, no matter what. But I think RFK is going to take and make those people who are anti-Trump, like Charlemagne the God, guess what? That's us out. Okay, those guys who have influence, RFK is going to pick up that vote. And it's going to help the left. It's not going to help the right. It's going to hurt Trump. So,
and by the way, those sound bites, whether you agree with them, disagree with them, he needs stuff like that. I mean, what are his polling numbers even look at? This is 538 right here. It's shocker alert, still neck and neck, Trump, Biden. Kennedy is going to decide the election.
If he gets on enough ballots, he could be Ross Perot and then some.
Yeah.
I will tell you, the Democrats are more angry at me for having Bobby on News Nation than they are for me saying, look, if you want to vote for Trump, vote for Trump. He's not my guy, but you got to look at the policies. That pisses them off because they say this guy is an existential threat. He's the devil.
Yeah.
They're more angry about the Bobby, and they just had a bunch of key state matchups. And when you add in Bobby, Biden's number dropped in every one
wow.
of those states. So that's why they're spooked. And that's why the DNC just put together a team. They're saying to target third-party candidates, but it's really just Bobby. And if you've noticed in the last couple of weeks, because I know a couple of the people they hired and they're good, Bobby's starting to take hits. And you're going to start seeing more hits. It started with about Shanahan, which was a weird VP pick, especially when he told me I would have picked her even if she was broke. Come on. Yeah. But and then there's dissension within the campaign. People don't like how things are being run. Bobby's not really in control, which makes no sense. Those stories are going to be fed by the left.
I don't know if it works with Bobby's audience. I think the audience that's going to vote for Bobby, like, for example, I'm not asking you this, I'm just speculating. I think you'd vote for Bobby. I think you, just watching you and talking to you the last year or so, I don't think you're excited about a Biden vote. You don't have to answer this question. I don't think you're definitely not excited about a Trump vote. That's more family. You can't vote for Trump because it's in my opinion, I'm not telling you it is.
I could vote for a Republican. I'm not going to vote for somebody who openly attacks my family.
Okay. So that's what I mean, that I don't think you would vote for Trump.
Yes.
And I don't know if Trump can do anything to gain your vote. You said yes a couple months ago, but I don't think Trump can
Stop attacking my family.
Yeah.
Stop making it hard for my kids.
Yeah.
And then I'll start assessing the policies.
Would you, though? Would you sincerely? Would you, if let's just say if I talk to Trump and we do an event and you do the town hall, okay? It's you and Trump doing the town hall. You're interviewing him. Yeah. We'll do that at our studio here. Yeah. We'll sell out the tickets. Boom, you're hosting an event. It'll be hosted on PBD Podcast, let's just say. Mm-hmm. But it's you. I'll come up and I'll say, hey, great to be here. And then I'm out the way. And you're doing the town hall, the two of you guys together, okay?
I wouldn't love that arrangement because I'd lose 50% of my intelligence as soon as you walked off the stage. I think you would benefit the conversation. But, okay, I'll accept.
Okay, but let's just say we did that, right?
Yes.
Okay, whether you and I do it or you do it yourself, maybe we do it together. And I would say, but what do you think about this, Chris? Maybe we do it together, right? Can he do anything to get your vote?
Yes. On my vote? No, let's go slow here. If the former president came out on that stage and said, that Fredo stuff bothered you, and I shouldn't have played with it, and I shouldn't have tried to get you fired, and I shouldn't have celebrated what happened with your brother, and I shouldn't have baited my followers in a way that they went after your kids, that was wrong. And you've never done that to my family. You've always treated me with respect in person. Shouldn't have done that. You give me my respect, I give you yours. Now, I would take a step back because, look, I mean, you know, I think most people are probably like me. Guy comes out and insults your family, makes it hard for your kids. You're never going to vote for him. It doesn't matter if he's offering you 0 tax rate for the rest of your life. Then I would say, all right, let me look at the policies and let me see what kind of leader I think this guy can be. But I will never give a guy a shot or a woman a shot with my vote if you openly attack my family. But I said what I said on the show last time, which, you know, was a little taken out of context by people, but that's okay. You should be open to voting for whoever supports your interests. I don't believe that Donald Trump has the strategy, the vision, or the ambition to destroy our democracy. I don't believe he's interested in that. I don't believe he's capable of that, frankly. So look at the policies. You have 2 weak choices. Look at the policies, figure out what's better for your family, go with it.
Yeah. So for me, finishing my thought, I think you're internally feeling more comfortable with an RFK vote than anything else. And
I love the disruption.
Yeah.
I love the disruption of the 2-party system.
But I also think there is a little bit of affinity with the families. I think there's also a little bit of connection there, and that makes an easier vote.
Well, his family's been sweating me.
Okay.
His family's been sweating me because they're not for him running.
Would love to see this. The chances that Trump apologized to you publicly, 0.
Well, you can't say 0. You can't say 0.
I don't know.
Roy Cohn school of thought, never apologize.
No. First of all, I don't disagree with him. I'm on his side. I don't disagree with him. I think what he could say is it's behind us, and look, you know, like I remember one time he was on your show and he's like, you know, I much prefer your father than you. And he would always try to kind of get under your skin. But that's kind of like what.
I'm okay with that.
But by the way, that's kind of like what that happened. Like even when we did the live podcast, one guy made a comment from the back. I'm not a fan of that. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You said something, sign a waiver and whatever. I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff when that happens with us. I don't entertain that conversation because I want to actually have the conversation, right? I'm not trying to disrespect. I'm trying to have the conversation. No, I think I can see how it would be tough, but at the same time, Chris, I can also see from having conversations with you, like as much as you guys watch this year, I wish you could see how we are in the car with zero cameras, zero audio, zero nothing. It's 100 times more fun than what you see here, right?
Yep.
Our relationship, what it's like, right? And it's sincere, genuine love we enjoyed, right? And you would sit there, and like a lot of people come to me and say, the other day I'm getting ice cream with the kids, and the guy comes up and says, hey, you know, and I know people are giving you a hard time with the Cuomo thing and all that stuff, but I see what you're doing. You're trying to bring America together, man. I just want to tell you, I support you and all this stuff, but, you know, and it's these types of comments that come up.
Great.
Dude, for 3 years, people were telling me, fire, fire, fire. If I get one more Manek, people would spend $100 just to tell me to fire at him. I'm like, bro, save your $100 on Manek.
The
with
chat
that.
is going crazy.
Send it to me. Tell me you want me to.
The chat right now is already saying.
Can I give Pat some kudos? Because this anecdote you're talking about, Cuomo, I actually think that's the most of America. I think because it's a business-driven political podcast and it's an election year, we're so divisive. You put any two Americans in a room, they're going to get along more than disagree. And that's the fallacy of what's going on with this two-party system and this binary.
It only benefits them. Yes. And that's why they keep us apart. They hate when we talk to each other.
Yeah.
They hate it.
And we're going to keep doing it, by the way. So that part's going to continue.